right near Bright Star, Arkansas, to visit the grave of a guy who was truly larger than life. What's up, Ramblin' Ted here. Once again, walking through a cemetery. Seems like I do that a lot. But we're here today to visit the grave of a guy named J.W. or Big Jim Patterson, who was born on July 4th, passed away on October 31st. He was quite an interesting guy. He was I hate to use this term because it's not used anymore, but he was what they used to call a sideshow freak, or I would say a sideshow performer nowadays is what people would call him. But traveled around with the Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Circus as the world's tallest man, and I believe he was at that time the world's tallest man. That's how they built him. But there's not a whole lot of stuff about him, but I found enough stuff to make a pretty interesting video. I've got some notes with me so I don't get things wrong, or too wrong. And we're going to visit his grave. This is a neat cemetery, so I'm going to walk around and talk a little bit about it. Stick with me. He was reportedly 8 foot 4 inches tall. He was born in 1847 and passed away on October 31st of 1920. So 105 years ago, or just a little over that now. He was born on the 4th of July, 1847. He was born in Sevier County, Arkansas, which is north of Texarkana and up close to the Oklahoma border. Some things I found said he was born in Oklahoma, so it's real close there. As a matter of fact, if you look down this road we're at right now, we're in Arkansas and we're really close to Texas. It's about 4 or 5 miles down the road to Texas. A town called Bloomberg, which is where he lived after he retired from Ringling Brothers. His family said that despite being so tall, he was a really handsome man, apparently super friendly. People just loved him. He got along with people. And I hate to use the term gentle giant, but that's what they say he was. Some pictures of him I found online. I'll put a few of those up here because he really was a nice looking guy, and apparently had a great sense of humor. So that's always nice. This is a pretty old cemetery. I can't even read the date on this. It's an old headstone, though. Yeah. Of course, I'm here. I love to get to places when the sun's setting or rising, and I'm not an early bird, so setting is more my speed usually. I'm not sure exactly where he's at. I know he's in the family plot, which is surrounded by a fence, and I'll get to that in a minute. But he's somewhere here. I'm going to walk around until I find him. It's always interesting to find out these stories. I had no idea this guy was around anywhere. That at one time the world's tallest man was from this area and lived around this area. He retired from Ringling Brothers, and I think he was retired and lived about 20 years after that, right there in the little town of Bloomberg where he had a farm. But he traveled the world, and he had some stories he would tell people about different things. That he said he learned more about the ways of love in a very short time traveling with the circus than he ever would have dreamed. He said he had stories that he could tell people, but he couldn't tell them in polite company. So if that tells you anything, I'm sure the world, to a small town person at that time, this would have been early 1900s, and to travel around the world and go to, go to Europe and travel and learn all these different things about the world when you're from small town Texas or Arkansas is probably pretty interesting. I know I've done a little bit of touring in bands and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff goes on out there. It's a crazy world, and it still is. But he saw a lot of it, and apparently he wasn't the kind of guy that partook in a lot of those things. He was apparently a pretty decent human being. But I'm sure he had some stories. I'd like to. He's one of those people, after reading about him, that I would have liked to have met and talked to, because I love people with stories. I love a good story. I like to tell stories. So, and usually you're allowed a little embellishment in your stories. It's one of those things. You can do that. That's how little stories become big stories, right? Like I said, he traveled with Ringling Brothers, and they billed him as man. One day they'll invent something to keep hair out of your mouth, but I'm not sure when that day will be. They built him as the world's tallest man. They built him at 8 feet 4 inches tall, but his obituary says 7'5". So, like I said, you're allowed to embellish a little bit. That's one of those things. So, I do know that he was billed as various different things. He was billed as the world's tallest man. Sometimes he would dress up as, and I can't remember the exact name, but he was supposedly an African giant at some point. And then he would dress as a woman, and a dwarf would pose with him as his husband, and he'd bill himself as the world's largest woman, and of course the dwarf being beside him made him seem all the larger. Apparently the guy had a great sense of humor, so none of this stuff to him was upsetting. Like, he basically did whatever Ringling Brothers said. We're going to bill you as this. And people back then, they like to talk about it now, but for a lot of people, like dwarves, short people, and great big tall people, and people with just various deformities, that would be a really good opportunity for them to make a living, So it wasn't a horrible thing as far as these people were concerned. I just looked down here. I'm going to show you this. I just looked down here, and there's a really strange tree root. So check this out. Can you make that out? It looks like almost looks like a water trowel through there, but it's a tree root that is hollow down the center. See some pretty neat stuff. Pretty out here. Very, very nice. Big cemetery too. I think he's in this plot of land right up here. I'm going to go look. I know there's a fence around it, and I'll get to that story when I get there. But yeah, pretty day out here. It's nice weather. This looks like this tree was maybe struck by lightning. Like I was saying, back in those days, that was a good way for people to make a living that couldn't otherwise make a living. I'm sure he saved up quite a bit of money doing that, and came back home and was able to get a farm and live the rest of his days out, about 20 more years in Bloomberg, Texas, and that's where he passed away at. But so yeah, he made a living off that. He found a way to turn what could have been a negative into a positive, and that's what life's about, man. You have to take the blows and take the things that hit you and everything, and try and make something out of it. It's not always easy, but something you've got to do. I think I found it. I believe I found it. Yeah. This looks like the Patterson family plot. Let's see if we can find his headstone. Well, it wasn't difficult. He has the largest headstone in the family plot. This fence that's around it that you can see was erected after he was buried. And apparently, now I'm looking at this, I'm 6'3". I believe there's probably room, depending on where the casket starts. But they say that everything from his knees down are outside of this fence. That's the legend, and that's the rumor. And you know, that's probably about 7 feet right there. So if he's 8'4" in a casket, that's probably accurate. It's probably accurate. And a lot of people thought maybe he would be upset by this, but apparently he was the kind of guy who would have loved that. But yeah, that's the grave of J.W. Patterson. July 4th, 1847 to October 31st, 1920. Buried here with his family. A very, I mean, it's a big monument. It's 5, almost 6 feet tall, but it's, you know, not very assuming, to be honest. You know, the rest of his family's got some nice graves here. But yeah. Huh. Interesting. I kind of expected something on there to tell about his life as a performer. I mean, he was world famous, but apparently not. That's it. But yeah, so if he's, I guess that headstone's probably 5 feet tall. That's probably a good 6'8" from that fence. I should have brought a tape measure to measure, because it's very interesting to me. And I don't think he would have minded. Apparently his sense of humor was such that he would have thought it hilarious that his feet were outside of the family plot, according to everybody that knew him. So yeah, that is the grave of Big Jim Patterson. A big man, not only in stature, but apparently in his personality and his personality. He was a big guy, larger than life, from what everybody said. And I know this is kind of not a well-known, famous figure, but I really wanted to come see this guy's grave after reading a little bit about him. And you can find a lot of stuff online. Like I said, Bloomberg is just down the road from here, about 5 miles, just across the Texas state line is where he lived. I couldn't find where his property was, or I might have tried to go out there and see where it was, but you know, it's not a big town, so if he lived in Bloomberg, he lived in a probably 20 square mile area. But yeah, I want to take a minute to thank you guys. I look at statistics on my page a lot, and I have a lot of my viewers are new viewers. So if you guys are new viewers, man, subscribe and a thumbs up. Those help more than almost anything as far as the algorithm goes and getting my videos out there. And if you're returning viewers, which a lot of you are, thanks a lot. I appreciate you guys watching my videos. New viewers, returning viewers, just people in general, that you take the time out of your day to watch me walk around and you know, say stupid stuff sometimes. There's a ladybug on my camera. That's a good sign, right? Isn't that supposed to be a good luck thing? I think it is. Getting a little late in the season for bugs, but it's still pretty warm here. It's 80 degrees today, so in November. So this is quite a grave. It's another Patterson. Huh. Hey, I guess there are several Pattersons buried here. Yeah, not sure if you can see that with the sun, but this is another Patterson grave plot. Right down the way from Big Jim, who's right there. But yeah, like I say, I want to thank you guys for following along with me on these weird adventures and stuff, and helping me grow my channel. You're more of a part of this than I really am. I'm just a talking head. You know, hair. I'm gonna start a drinking game. Every time I have to pull hair out of my mouth, y'all can take a shot. Maybe. Anyway, yeah. Big Jim Patterson. World's tallest man. Now, what I would like to know is, was he 7'5" or 8'4"? Which one? I've looked at pictures of him, and honestly, it's hard to tell. The pictures I've seen, some of them, he really does look like he's probably 8 foot. I'll put some pictures in here. But I had a friend when I lived in Missouri, up there, named Bill, and Bill was 7'2". He was exactly a foot taller than me. And if you looked at a picture of him, he was kind of like Big Jim. You couldn't tell he was that tall unless he was up against something, you know. He was a large man, and he looked proportional. He looked like a normal guy, and I was 6'2", and we kind of had the same build, but you know, he was a full foot taller than me. But that guy one time picked me up above his head like I was nothing and held me up in the air. And you know, he's 7'2". I was probably 9 feet in the air, and look, I screamed like a little girl. I'm not gonna lie. Screamed like a child. Did not like it. Didn't like it at all. But anyway, Bill was 7'2", and looking at pictures of Big Jim, he probably looks like he's a little taller than that. But so I'm willing to bet he was 7'5", and Ringling Brothers added 11 inches onto his height and put him in like platform shoes or something, you know, because that's what they did back then. But either way, he was a large man who made a pretty good life for himself. Hey, look at that hair. Backlit. I'm getting all artsy on you. But he made a good life for himself. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Short video today to make up for my 45-minute long one that I put up last weekend or a couple weeks ago, whatever it was. But the video's short. But the subject matter was not. I'm that corny. So anyway, like I said, if you guys, if you're a new viewer here, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out this long. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to. Hit that like, hit that thumbs up over there, man. Share my video with people. Look at some of my other videos. I've got some interesting stuff. You know, you can't hit a home run every time. I've got some clunkers and I've got some good ones. That's the way it works. I'm no pro at this. I'm probably never will be, but I like to go see interesting stuff. So anyway, you guys be good to each other. Remember, it costs zero, nothing, nada to be nice. Maybe a little sanity sometimes, but just be nice to people. World's hard, man. Hard enough out there. So, without making it harder by being terrible. So, y'all be good to each other. Get out and do crazy stuff. Come out here to just outside Bright Star, right across from the Olive Branch Church, and visit the grave of Big Jim Patterson. See what you think. See if you think his legs below the knees are actually outside of this fence. I kind of believe it after seeing pictures of him and seeing how short this fence is. Kind of believing it. I'll show you this place from the end here. Yeah, I think his legs are sticking out. Anyway, I'll catch y'all next time. Thanks for watching.